Whew. Okay, y'all. Let's get into this final notice of default for the Department of Justice. Not as a conclusion, unfortunately, but as a continuation. This isn't the end for me, just another necessary step towards justice and freedom. But let me be real, I need support. I don't think people grasp the price that they have put on freedom, but I do. I carry it. I pay it. And for a long time, I was carrying it alone. Now I reached a point where I can boldly say I need help, and I'm not ashamed to say that anymore. But here's what hurts. When support feels conditional, because I'm not walking the traditional path, people pull back because they don't understand. But this isn't about understanding. This is about truth. Look past the differences and focus on what truly matters. The harassment, the trauma, the knowledge. I know that I deserve support, and I also know that we have rights. Rights that I am fighting for with or without a lawyer. I have been honest about this from the beginning. I do not need representation. I am my own advocate, but that does not mean that I do not need support as well. We all do. These next documents that I'm sending out are critical, and I understand the power that they hold. Right now, I'm only sharing one, the final default to the Department of Justice, but I will be back to share accompanying documents because, as I've said, I am not just fighting for my rights as a guardian. I want it all. As I was drafting this, I was also finalizing other documentation. Yes, I am multitasking. Yes, it is heavy. But this is the work. But let's get into this document. Final notice of default and administrative dishonor regarding formal default for failure to uphold constitutional oath and address right violations. To whom it may concern, this communication should serve as your final notice of default and administrative dishonor regarding your inadequate response to the private custody protection and oversight notice I mailed to your office May 20th, 2025, sent via USPS priority mail tracking number 950-551-542-243-514-056-0198. Confirmed delivered. Individual picked up at postal facility on May 23rd, 2025. As for the follow-up formal demand for oversight and record correction that was sent to your office on June 4th, 2025 via USPS certified mail number 702-119-700-002-335-708-74 and confirmed delivered. Individual picked up at postal facility on June 11th, 2025. This notice gave you 21 days to respond with a notarized rebuttal supporting your claim of non-jurisdiction. You failed to respond in writing, which constitutes as a lawful default under federal and commercial law. For your office to claim that this matter falls outside of the jurisdiction of the federal civil rights laws you enforce, particularly after receiving a detailed and notarized package via USPS priority mail number 9505-5154, 2243-5140-5601-98, delivered and picked up on May 23rd, 2025, is not only inaccurate, it is deeply contradictory. Your email dated May 29, 2025, reference number 616943-BBG, explicitly admits that we are not determining that your report lacks merit. Of course not, because I've cited and supported every claim with direct references to the U.S. Constitution, title codes, case law, statutes, rules, and procedural violations. The fact that your department would acknowledge the merit and substance of my complaint only to dismiss it without further review is a clear violation of your sworn duties and federal oversight obligations. Furthermore, it is not only contradictory but deeply confusing how your office was able to state, "Our team determined the situation you described does not appear within the jurisdiction of federal civil rights laws we enforce," just 6 days after receiving my complete evidentiary packet, which included an affidavit addressed explicitly to the Department of Justice, citing the very civil rights laws your agency is lawfully, morally, and ethically obligated to enforce. If your office was able to reach this conclusion so quickly, it stands to reason that a thorough review was conducted. Therefore, a full rebuttal, which was formally requested shortly after, should have been readily available and provided upon request, right? Now, let me be clear. Your department responded to my first mailing in just 6 days, but when formally placed on notice of default, you address nothing. This silence is dishonor, and under the U.S. UCC 1-308 and federal standards, silence is acquiescence. The notion that the DOJ completed a full investigation in under a week while ignoring a formal default and failing to issue a rebuttal is implausible and disrespectful to the gravity of the complaint filed. Your refusal to act has allowed continued harm to be inflicted upon myself and my children under the color of law. Your failure to investigate or rebut the following violations is now on public and administrative record, and your agency is therefore in default. The failure to respond constitutes tacit acquiescence, dishonor, and a breach of obligation under 18 U.S.C. 241 and 242, conspiracy against rights and deprivation of rights, 42 U.S.C. 1983, civil action for deprivation of rights, 18 U.S.C. 1001, falsification and concealment, 18 U.S.C. 1512, obstruction of justice, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 55, entry of default, 5 U.S.C. 555B, administrative procedure, Uniform Commercial Code, UCC 1-308, 3-505, lawful default and dishonor. As for constitutional protection under due process and the right of redress of grievances, let the record reflect. Silence can only be equated with fraud where there is a legal and moral duty to speak. United States v. Twill 550 F2D 297 5th Circuit 1977. An unrebutted affidavit stands as truth. Data Disc Inc. versus System Tech Associations Inc. 557 F2D 1280 9th Circuit 1977. Let this serve as final default on your part for failure to correct the record, fulfill your oath, and address procedural and constitutional violations clearly documented in my filings. History of submission. Please be advised, I previously filed a motion to set aside the magistrate order on June 14, 2024, and proof of the filing is attached for your review. Within that motion, I explicitly directed the magistrate attention to the accompanying documents submitted on the public record. These documents were not merely exhibits. They were notarized affidavits carrying lawful weight and remain unrebutted to this day, including but not limited to the writ of quo warranto, notice of subrogation, affidavit of truth, notice of surrender of assignment and acceptance. These filings, lawful and standing in truth under both UCC and Constitution precedent, form an integral part of public evidentiary record, submitted under oath, notarized, and never lawfully contested. They now serve as foundational support for the formal record presented to the Department of Justice. Their legal standing cannot be dismissed as silence in the face of such affidavits constitutes acquiescence in agreement under both constitutional law and commercial law. These filings were submitted in good faith to uphold truth, defend rights, and demand accountability from agencies bound to oath to protect the people that they serve. I am not required to file the same motion or affidavits more than once. Yet, in reality, I have been forced to repeat myself just to be acknowledged. This constitutes the dereliction of duty and will be pursued accordingly. Unfortunately, I do not have the means to provide physical copies of every filed document. But I have included a verified record confirming the following of each submission. With the exception of cover letters and certificate of services, every document filed has been notarized, meaning each one carries the full weight of lawful truth unless properly rebutted. As you are aware, under both constitutional and commercial law, silence in response to a sworn affidavit constitutes acquiescence and agreement. Despite this, I continue to be harassed, disregarded, and harmed under the color of law, with no lawful rebuttal ever issued to nullify the legal effect of these filings. Final notice and enforcement intent. Let the record reflect you are now in final administrative dishonor. This notice shall be filed and published as lawful record. I reserve the right to escalate this matter to the Department of Health and Human Services Civil Rights Division, the Office of Comptroller of the Currency, the human rights and international oversight bodies, public advocacy platforms, and legal forums. Your failure to lawfully investigate the first package and lawfully address the formal rebuttal, which contained notarized and lawful documents, is binding under the principles of commercial and constitutional law. You have now dishonored your oath, not just administratively, but spiritually and publicly. Please be advised, I have provided updated evidence of ongoing harm resulting directly from your failure to uphold your sworn oath in relation to case number FA2 470-1460. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Martin Luther King Jr. I am not behind, I am aligned. I speak the law of truth, not fear. Every false structure around me must fall. My words hold weight, my light reveals lies, and I stand protected spiritually, lawfully, and divinely. All rights reserved without prejudice. UCC 1-308 by Heaven-Marshay Holt, living woman, authorized representative, lawful guardian, affiant. Woo! That was a mouthful, y'all. Just so you know, whether it's raining, whether my babies are playing in the background, and whether I've been typing for 2 hours straight, I'm still striking because freedom ain't found in a courtroom. It's filed, it's sealed, and it's declared. Peace. As you can see, a lot happens during the process of making documentation.